All right, in this video today, we're going to be installing a new carbon fiber steering wheel on a Camry. Just a lot of people don't understand the process of installing a steering wheel or removing a steering wheel. And we just want to demonstrate that it's a lot easier than people perceive it to be and a lot less dangerous. That's kind of the biggest fear I think most people have. So the very first thing that we always do when we're going to work on a steering wheel and therefore an airbag is we disconnect the negative battery cable. So I've just done that here. We disconnect it and then we move it out of the way so it doesn't recontact the battery while we're working on it. And that's it. We now let the vehicle sit for 30 minutes, and at that point in time the airbag is dead as a doornail. You would need electrical current to reactivate it. So we're going to let the vehicle sit and we'll be right back. Okay, so first we're going to open up the ports to get to the airbag screws, and we just pop them off with a little screwdriver. And though this is a Camry, most vehicles work about the same way. It might take a different screwdriver bit or what have you. And on this one we're using a Torx bit. So just a little Torx bit to remove the airbag screws. They're not in there real tight. Usually about a 10-pound torque. And there'll be one on both sides on most vehicles. And some vehicles will have a little spring instead of a screw, but most have a screw. Most every vehicle have screws on the back of right and left of the steering wheel. And so that's all there is to loosening the airbag. Then we pull it out. Again, this airbag's already dead, and so we have two little plugs, and we're just going to take those plugs loose. Okay, so we're just going to pop the little locks loose on each one of these, and then they just pull right out. It's that simple. We set the airbag aside. One more on this one. Each vehicle is a little bit different as to what different connections it has. Okay, so then we'll just set the airbag aside, and now all we have is one nut holding the steering wheel on, and so we'll grab a wrench and take care of that. So next we just get our socket with the right fitting. This one uses a 3/4 of an inch fitting, and kind of hold the steering wheel with your knees to not spin, and just break it loose. We'll go ahead and unscrew the nut. Now here's one of the tricks to removing the steering wheel. You don't want to take the nut all the way off, and what you're going to do is you're going to grab the steering wheel. Now this doesn't work with an old steering wheel like a 1940s or 50s plastic steering wheel, because if you pull on those older steering wheels you're going to crack the plastic. But these you will not crack plastic because they're molded or leather. And so we're going to take it at the spokes. Okay, we're going to hold the steering wheel at the spokes, and we're going to pull it off, and we're just going to rock it left and right just like that. And when it pops loose it hits the nut. If we didn't have the nut on there, it would kind of throw us back in the vehicle. So now we'll go ahead and pull the unscrew the nut the rest of the way, and then the steering wheel just pulls right off. We have a couple of little connectors here that we need to pull out. Little electrical plugs. There we go. And that's all there is to removing the steering wheel. Next we'll do the installation after we've converted anything that needs to be converted. Some of the electrical plugs will need to be converted over to the new steering wheel. On this new steering wheel we actually carbon fibered the control areas, the trim pieces as well. so we don't have to worry about converting, transferring them over. But we do need to go ahead and make sure we got all of our electrical, our blinker, and everything else. So I'm going to go ahead and, those are real simple for you to figure out. Each steering wheel is different, but we've just got little Phillips head bits to unscrew, take the blinker off, and then we'll transfer any wiring that needs to be transferred as well. Okay, one thing I want to add here is that if you're removing an old steering wheel, like one of the classic 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, the old plastic molded steering wheels, do not just grab the steering wheel and pull it off or rock it off like I'm showing you here. With the later model steering wheels, you can do that. But with those old classic steering wheels, if you go and pull on the grip area of the steering wheel to pull it off, you're going to crack the plastic on those old steering wheels. So you have to use a steering wheel puller, which they sell at any auto parts store for about $10. You have to use a steering wheel puller to pull that steering wheel off, so that there's no pressure put on the spokes or on the grip area of that steering wheel, because they will crack. And then when you reinstall one of those old steering wheels, you do not want to put any pressure on the grip area or the spokes pushing it on. You want to just slide it on the steering column, and then let the bolts do all the work for you, pulling it onto the splines so that you don't crack those spokes. Remember, a steering wheel of that age is an antique, and it needs to be treated like an antique. Even if it's been redone, resurfaced, refinished, sections of it remolded, whatever, those steering wheels were not made to handle pressure. And that's why every one of them crack that you see in the old classic cars, and we do a lot of restorations on those. So I just wanted to interject that. Use a steering wheel puller to pull them off, and when you put them back on, do not put any pressure on the steering wheel. Just use the bolts to pull them on. And then even on those steering wheels, a lot of them don't have power steering on those older cars, unless they're being retrofitted for power steering now. But the pressure of even turning that steering wheel while it's not moving can crack those steering wheels further. So just take care, treat them like the antiques that they are. Okay, just to go over the different things that we transferred from the old steering wheel to the new steering wheel. We didn't need to transfer the trim pieces because we made the new trim pieces for this steering wheel in carbon fiber. We did transfer over the blinker. We transferred over the counterweight. That's what this is. Not all steering wheels have a counterweight on them, but this one does. We transferred over the back cover. And so you'll just need to take a look at your steering wheel, what different parts are on it, and transfer all the working mechanics from the old steering wheel to the new steering wheel. And now we're ready to install the new steering wheel. So we're going to feed the wiring harnesses back through, and then this steering wheel has got a keyed spline pattern to it, so it only fits on one way. Some of the old steering wheels were not keyed. In other words, you can slide it onto the spline any direction. And so if that's the case on those older steering wheels, what the best thing to do is to mark with a permanent marker, just a little mark on the hub of the steering wheel and on the steering column, so that you know you're sliding it back on in the same exact direction. But this one has got a keyed, it's got a little key down one side, so it only fits on one way. So we'll go ahead and slide that on. Okay. Now we'll put our nut back on. You can go to your maintenance book on your car and see what the required torque is on your steering wheel, but most of them are about 10 pounds, and I'm not even going to use a torque wrench. I'm just going to tighten it on there, about 10 pounds worth. go. And then we're ready to put the airbag on. So again, we're doing exactly opposite of what we were doing before. I'm going to go ahead and plug the wiring harnesses back in. Okay. And we've got this one. Okay, and then we got the two airbag plugs. These are color coordinated, and they make it pretty easy to not mess up. Slide it in and then push the lock in. Some of them have a lock that pops up, some of them have a lock that slides up. Each vehicle is a little bit different, but they're all about the same. Okay, so that's it for the airbag. We slide the airbag back into its position, and then we just use our Torx screwdriver to screw the airbag screws back in. Now we're ready to put our little plastic covers back in place. There we go. That's all there is to it.